Up. All right. So I would ask those that are in attendance to make sure your mics are set and also your video in there, and everybody is visible. So
Good, good.
uh,
All right.
those online, just let me know. Hopefully, it's always good to know that the system's working and you can see all the video and illustrations
Sound.
we put up. So and sound.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Chairman.
Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet Planning and Community Design Commission for December 4th, 2025 to order. Miss Powell, do you have the attendee list? If
I do
not,
not.
I will delegate Laura to do
Thank you.
it, if that works. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, member Petrie Powell,
Here.
member Felicia Ford,
Here.
member Laura Ragsdale, present. Absent is Sam Wallach, Jenna Nat, and Tim Spiegelglass, and Chairman Robert Jagel.
Here. Thank you. Let it also be known that our City Council liaison, Councilmember Brian Lewis, is in attendance, as well as staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, the City of Olivet's Planning Community Development Department's Director, and Jack Carswell via Zoom. So am I missing Dawn, or is Dawn at home?
Don's not on yet, so
Okay,
she had an
good.
engagement earlier on.
Well, we thanks everybody for being in attendance. We appreciate it. Just to let you know, we do follow the agenda, item by item, but there'll be a time for public comments in the beginning. These public comments are related to things that aren't on the agenda item. So if you have something like that, when that comes up, make sure you raise your hand. We'll ask for that as well. We also, as we go through the agenda, we'll discuss kind of the petition that's there, have some question and answer between commission members with staff, and then typically bring on the petitioner to help answer a few more questions or go over it a little bit more. At that point in time, or after that, then we ask if there's any public comments related to those agenda items, listen to those, and then we typically have some more discussions if needed, and then take a vote if we can. Okay. So we appreciate everyone being in attendance. If there are public comments, and you're online, make sure you raise your hand, push the button to raise your hand. And then if you are via Zoom, we do ask you to make sure that you have your video on as well as your microphone on, and be looking for that because by default, those are typically turned off. So. And then we do ask that no public comments be no more than 3 minutes, just to be respectful of everybody's time and to make sure everybody's opinions get heard. Shouldn't be that much of a problem tonight, but sometimes it gets pretty busy. So we appreciate it. All right. Carlos, are there any announcements tonight?
No, Chairman.
Okay, then we'll take on any public comments in the audience. Yeah, come on up there. Turn on the microphone as well. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it.
How's that?
It's good.
My name is Doug Cohen. I own Douglas Properties. My home address is 1025 South McKnight. I'll be looking at some notes on my phone, so I don't want to think that I'm rude and not looking up. So I just a few things to talk about. So a couple of weeks ago, I was here for a presentation on one of the many homes that I've built in this municipality, and I was surprised and disappointed that there was a no vote on the design, and it kind of gave me hesitance to move forward with other sites without having some answers on where the committee is headed with the future of new construction and new homes. And I don't think it's an unreasonable request by an applicant that if someone is going to vote no, then there needs to be an open dialogue during that presentation and voice their opinions on what they do not like about the house that is drawn instead of just voting no at the end, so that builders like myself can have some idea of why a project was voted no, so they know how to make plans for the future. I think that as far as designs of homes, as far as criteria for sizes of homes, shapes, outside of this committee's aesthetic review, I think that that should be subject to the subdivision themselves to determine that. For example, at Stony Side, they have a very strict ordinance of no two-story homes. So the builders, when they buy homes in there for new developments, we know going in that we have to abide by a certain height, and they cannot be 2 stories. So we know the rules going in, and that those rules lead us to a value of the lot by square footage of how much we can build. If you have a blanket over the entire zip code to control sizes of homes and try to interfere with the natural economic cycle of real estate, I think you're going to see a serious disruption of home values in the entire area. Now, I'm all for affordable housing. And if affordable housing is something that the city is looking to obtain, then there really is only one obvious answer, and that's to increase density. There are places in Clayton, especially Davis Place, where relatives of mine live, that there's mostly homes in there that are single family, but there's also a mix of duplexes in there, and they all fit in well with each other. It's not an unusual design, if done properly, to have houses and duplexes in the same subdivision, and that helps with the affordability issue. Speaking of affordability, every zip code throughout the country has its own definition of what affordable housing is. For example, maybe in St. Charles, it's $300,000. Maybe in Ladue, it's $1,500,000. My thinking of doing this for over 40 years is that in Olivet, affordable housing would fall between the $650,000 and $700,000 range for newer construction. But my most and largest concern is to know where the municipality is headed with some sort of comprehensive plan. Because when builders like myself go and buy lots on old dilapidated homes, we buy them quickly as is with no contingencies. And if 3 months later I come in with a plan where I'm anticipating building a 4,000 square foot house and all of a sudden I'm limited to 2,500 square feet, then I've just paid $200,000 too much for that lot. It's fairly simple math, and I think that a vote of a no over the entire zip code for controlling housing stock and size is a dangerous path. I'd like to be a participant in how this committee is moving forward so I know beforehand when I start purchasing lots how much I can pay for a lot. And I think that's very important, not just to me, but for all of my peer group. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. I don't know if it's, right now, we're having some discussions about how to look at that affordability aspect. And so we don't have anything planned or, or have really discussed it. But it is something that we're looking to do.
Well, I would think that it'd be very difficult for the city to plan it. I think it would be more reasonable for someone like myself to bring a proposal to the city and say, this is what I want to do. Look at the density that I'm creating. Because I don't know how you could I'm not sure how a city could say we're going to designate a certain area for affordable living, right? I know they're trying to do that like in Malibu, right?
Right.
It's kind of scary. But I think if everything goes well across the street and it's going very well, and there's a lot of dilapidated, I don't know if that's a fair word, inferior housing maybe, just to the west of me right there, that I would like to buy the entire street and have a series of 2 families and 3 families and make them affordable. So I don't know. I think that would probably be the best approach, in my opinion. As if you come up with a design, if you want to include my help, other builders' help, I think that would be a great idea. And at the same time, when someone brings in a development like what we brought in to you all to review across the street, that might be, the more effective way instead of putting the cart before the horse. I don't know how you would take an area of Olivet of $2 million homes and say, now we're going to plot on affordable housing. It's going to be quite the challenge.
Yes.
And I think that's I mean, I went to Old Bonham School. I played Little League Baseball at Stacy Park. You know, I've been here for 55 years. I've seen everything that's happened in Olivet. Um, and it's been an amazing run. So I'm all for change, and I think one of the most dynamic things of Olivet is the diversity and the price range of homes that, you know, from 300,000 to almost, you know, $2.5 million. That's an amazing thing. Not many municipalities around the country can say that they can offer that, and that is an amazing fact that
Yeah.
everyone should be proud of here.
Agree.
Okay.
Well, thanks for your comments. We appreciate it. We might take you up on, like having some discussions with developers like you.
Very good.
All right. Good. All right.
May I interject here just a moment?
Yeah,
I was the no vote, and my no vote had nothing to do with affordability. It had to, excuse me, I'm talking now. I'm not
listening
having a
now.
dialogue. I'm just giving you why I voted no. I voted no because the house was extremely large in comparison to the other houses adjacent to it. I don't believe it met our massing requirements. I have to wonder exactly what a house would have to look like in order to not be considered appropriate for massing requirements. There's cities all across this nation that are grappling with affordable housing, and to say that affordable housing here in Olivet starts at $650,000 is laughable. My personal opinion, and the reason why I voted no, and I think everybody on the commission knew exactly why I was voting no, and it had to do with massing. I think it's inappropriate in a neighborhood full of single-family homes, single-story homes that are mid-century modern, to stick a gigantic house that doesn't even come close to the same design as the adjacent homes. I'm sorry, and I will continue to vote no if we continue to go down this path, and that's my prerogative.
okay. Let's move on to the next. I don't think now's the appropriate time to kind of have any more back and forth discussion on this.
No, I just want to make, since I was being pointed out, I thought I ought to give an explanation. That's all.
I think that was good, and I'm glad at least you were able to get that, and so Doug could hear that as well. So I think that's perfect. But now let's just kind of move on to old business, and this is item A 9321 Olive. This is the Mercy Ambulatory Pharmacy. Carlos?
Chairman, this item was introduced at our last meeting on November 20th. It's a proposed ambulatory pharmacy, which includes the components of retail pharmacy, specialty medications, home infusion, and centralized pharmacy support functions, including the call center and authorization support. And then I'll note that no drive-through is proposed as part of this project. It's at the old U.S. Bank facility, addressed as 9321 Olive Boulevard, which is a over 8-acre parcel, a very prominent parcel in our community because we don't have many parcels that are over 5 acres. It has a one-story building already on the site that roughly is 105,000 square feet. The property is zoned LID, light industrial, which is unique being that it's on Olive Boulevard, but it is zoned light industrial and it's part of our light industrial parks that are both Dealman Industrial and North Price in there. Within the LID district, we do permit medical offices and clinics, but they're subject to a special permit, meaning that they require a review and recommendation by the commission, but ultimately are approved by the council. Special permit gives the city pretty wide prerogative in the review because the use itself is unique to the special nature of the underlying zoning district. So this is an industrial district. This is more type of a service use. This is a unique specialty type of service use, and not to say it's not compatible with the industrial parameters of the district, but it gives the city the authority to kind of review and mitigate any negative impacts or impacts that type of use could have on the site itself and within the industrial district within itself too. So the city gets a lot of latitude to try to ensure that if there's any spillover effects, that we try to mitigate as much as possible to ensure that it fits within the character of that area. You saw this at our last meeting. They have the internal site plan. Again, this is almost over 105,000 square feet, how they would use the existing facility. It's one story. And then you saw the site improvements that they're proposing, including the sidewalk edge improvements. There's still a couple of things that need to be clarified. They identified the light structures that were on the site. They've gone over the landscaping and such, and that's all been addressed. You now have your report. Staff is recommending the commission consider action. And that would be in a form of a recommendation to the council and an approval of the site plan. Conditions for this is that the user, which is Mercy, hold a safety and service meeting with our fire and police departments so they get a better understanding of the type of service needs that would be necessary on there. We've had that discussion. I think you've heard about that discussion here, but we want to make sure that they talk to our public safety officials in that aspect too before the public hearing if the commission takes action. We've been in discussions with the applicant, petitioner, regarding improvements that the city is doing on Dillman Industrial Drive and to ensure that a southern access point on Dillman Industrial Drive is relocated, and that's what you see here. And it will be shifted. It will be shifted a little bit further north in this red line here, but in compliance with what our Public Works Director was kind of looking for, trying to encourage the petitioners to consider. We talked about an access easement agreement here next to Taco Bell. We're not asking them to do any modifications, but if the Taco Bell property were ever to redevelop, we want to make sure that we're in a place or in a position where we can modify that and combine that point, that access point on both sides, so it's directly across Llewellyn. So right now, on the south side, you have Llewellyn Lane, and then across the street, you have two aprons that are roughly within 50 feet apart or so. So we would like to improve the conflict points, the access on Olive in accordance with a master plan that we prepared and adopted back in, I believe it was 2019. And there, this would be consistent with the objectives and goals of that plan. We want to make sure that the exterior lighting is consistent with Chapter 428, meaning that it's all face downward, boxed in, and then also to try to control the hues in there. We want to ensure that the Olive Boulevard streetscape improvements are consistent with Chapter 428. It's a long parcel, so there's not as much detail here, but we think that, you know, we want to just verify and make sure that they're fully consistent with those standards. Commission has asked or requested some building exterior improvements along the front facade that we'd like to see come down, you know, as they get closer to their permitting, and then make sure that the signage is uniform and consistent so they come in as a signage package in there. So those conditions are incorporated in a recommended motion if the commission considers that. Be glad to answer any specific questions. We have representatives both from as a petitioner, we have representatives from Mercy, and then we have representatives of the actual property owner of the site. They are all aware of the conditions that are here. I don't believe that there's any opposition to any of those conditions, but I'll let them address that or chime in once you permit.
Out of curiosity, the cross agreement access on that southwest corner, does that lock it in to just that, or could it potentially move to further, you know, back?
The goal would be
depending on this next site.
to combine combine those two apron points.
Okay.
Now, how that's configured, I don't know. I don't think. Now, if they need more depth to do that, that's fine. But the goal is to eliminate, go from two aprons to one apron entrance, and how wide that is, that would be up to them. I think that there's enough in terms of the way their drive aisles are set in there with proper signage and stop signage or bar signage to control, you know, the in and out navigation so it doesn't block in there. But again, even if it's further back, the ultimate goal here is to combine the 2 points.
If I remember, there were some sizable utility structures that were kind of right there. So,
and it may be that, you know, that it has to be more on one side or the other side. It's hard to say.
You're right.
But we can't control, you know, without some type of, you know, easement agreement, you know, to when we get to that design phase. It'd be difficult to tell. Ideally, you know, here is Llewellyn, but if you look straight across the street, you are correct. There's a pole right there. There's an inlet, and there's a hydrant, and there is some topographical issues, not major, but that would have to be resolved. It may be a further extension this way or a further extension this way.
Okay.
The goal is not to design it. The goal is not for them to build it, but the goal is to just obtain the
access.
necessary easements so we're prepared in the event
Okay.
if that property ever does redevelop.
Laura, I think you had a question.
I was curious, and because I was not at the last meeting, and when I looked through the information, about how many people is the facility going to employ?
It'll be somewhere between 100 to 125 as they phase it in.
Because I was just thinking of like traffic in that
Oh, it's
area.
far less than the number of occupants that were there. Now, they will have a component for more customers, but there used to be over 350 employees
Okay.
at this facility.
That was one of my questions, because I used to live right over there, and like I just know the traffic pattern. I also think that that little first easement, moving it more south in towards the industrial park instead of it being right here at the edge
Right here?
yes.
Yeah, and that would be,
Shifting it back.
it'd be moved north.
No, sorry, north, not south, north towards the industrial park would also be extremely beneficial.
Correct.
Just because of traffic flow.
And before that, I'll note one thing that you did miss in there. So the city has secured, and a matter of fact, we are
Right, they're taking out the one building down here.
correct,
Yes.
and they're going to
They're widening
a
that.
dedicated right turn lane, and then here we're widening
That's
that
widening.
and adding
Mhm.
another dedicated right turn lane. So what
Okay.
the big issue here was when somebody was turning left, everybody turning right was backed up.
Backed up, yes.
So this
And
should
then-
help facilitate that, and
Okay.
then to ensure that there's enough queuing, they'll move
Here's-
this entrance to the north of this island.
Well, and it also is significantly less amount of
Yes,
employees, so. Okay.
appreciate the
Petrie or Felicia, do you have any questions for Carlos?
I think my only question was, since it's only going to be 100 to 125 employees, is there any discussion about reducing the sea of concrete behind the building to add more landscaping and less parking? I'm just curious. I know that we talked a little bit about it last time, but I didn't know if that's even something that we can ask of them since it's existing. I'm just curious. I mean, there looks like a lot of parking spaces back there, probably from when they had 350 employees. And since there's it's not going to be close, I just wondered we can have some of that removed. And
I think we'll ask the petitioners when they come up.
okay, cool.
Good. Felicia, did you have anything?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if we can hear from the petitioners now, that would be great.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is George Stock, and I'm with Stock and Associates Consulting Engineers, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Mercy Health. Joining me this evening are representatives of Mercy Health as well, available to answer questions. I was not at the previous hearing. Josh Barkus from my office was there. But since that meeting, Carlos, as well as myself and Mercy, had a discussion earlier this week to go over those conditions and specifically some of the items you're talking about, the relocation of the driveway on Dealman Industrial, which we're 100% agreeable to. With regards to the access easement and the dedication of that, I know that the owner is online and will be able to answer that specifically. Generally, my understanding is, like Carlos, they're in agreement with that easement, be able to take care of that item. Regarding the excuse me, safety and service meeting with fire and police. So Mercy's in the process of selecting the architect. That may have happened earlier this week or next week, but then we would set up a meeting and have that with that staff, those staff members and so forth to go through that. With regards to the project and that last comment about the parking lot, we do have a landscape architect involved. There was the plan submitted. And generally, the intent is not to remove asphalt and have expenses associated with that, but bring up the parking lot in compliance, maintain it, replace landscaping that's, needs to be replaced, and also comply with the landscape ordinance along Olive Street Road and that frontage and improve that. But we were not anticipating modifications to the parking lot other than the exception of what we talked about just a moment ago on the east side with the to Dealman Road. So it's not that we're going to utilize that parking lot, but again, we're a tenant on the property. Mercy is. And they don't own the property. They'll maintain it. They'll take care of the aesthetics on the exterior as suggested, and then the interior floor plan. So I think, generally we're 100% in compliance with, the recommendations, or in agreement with those recommendations. And I'm available to answer any other questions, or Representative Mercy.
How long's the lease for?
How long, the length of the lease? 10-year lease?
10-year lease? Okay.
I'm sure there's renewable terms within that.
Yeah, of course. How much of that parking lot will be utilized and how much will be just sitting vacant?
I would say probably, generally most people park as close to the building as they possibly
Right.
can, the shortest walk. So probably a third of the parking lot, the northernmost third may be underutilized and not used.
Okay, so 2/3, Phil. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody on the commission have any further questions for the petitioner? Did we want to bring on somebody from Mercy to address?
I do have the actual property
Property
owner
owner.
in attendance at
Yeah,
Mercy.
yeah.
Are you guys good? Anything else? Okay.
Thank
No,
you.
Doug's, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Alice and Dan, I'm going to promote you to panelist, and then that will allow you to speak before the commission. If you can turn on your mic and video, it'd be greatly appreciated. All right, Dan, I have you over. Your video is set, but I don't have your mic.
I'm
There
in.
you
Can
go.
you guys hear me?
You are there. Yes, sir.
Hello, Dan Dakovic. I'm the managing principal in Bamboo Equity Partners. We're the current owner of the former US Bank building.
Well, thank you for being in attendance. We appreciate it. There was a question about the cross easement access, of whether that was going to be an issue or if you guys were in agreement with that.
No, we're in agreement. We understand what the city is trying to accomplish, and again, obviously, the Taco Bell owners will have to be part of it, and but we're in agreement on proceeding with that.
Good, good, good. And if, I guess I'm going to ask this on behalf of Petrie, or maybe not on behalf of Petrie, but has there been any discussion about, trying to reduce the amount of parking if it's not needed, for this tenant? It's 10-year lease is a pretty long lease, but I know it kind of depends on if they're going to be there for, longer. It would almost, we probably prefer to see the parking kind of righted, if that makes sense.
I agree and I understand. We're not trying to say no, but again, I think what we need to think about is, what is the usability of this building in the future, right? After 10 years, possibly, if Mercy does not stay there, we have to think about what is next there, because the building at that age is going to be probably pretty old. So we'll probably have to leave, or raise the building if they leave. I think from the perspective of reducing the parking, we would not be inclined to do so. Because again, sometimes we have, and again, in a few, looking at some of our properties around the town, sometimes we do have people who park far away just so they can walk towards the building. They get their exercise that way. And I don't see the reason to reduce it and make it very tight on Mercy and make them, have a potential problem parking if certain amount of people come to the office and certain amount of people don't, right?
Right. I understand.
Chairman, I'll note a couple of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I crafted the parking ordinance on behalf of the city when I started in here, because I think the parking requirements were 6 per 1,000, and I wish this site would have been not in non-compliance. in there. And I've brought it down to 3.3 per thousand, which is low. But it is, in my professional opinion, that parking impacts the owners. If people can't find parking, they're not gonna
Right.
go there, and they're gonna go somewhere else. And that 3.3 that we currently have is one of the lower numbers around the area. And I've gotten a lot of criticism. You go to the shops at Price Crossing
Yes.
during lunchtime, you go to the brewery
Yes.
and the UPS store. But then you look at Olivet Center and you can see tons and tons of stalls just available throughout the day in there. So this site is probably more aligned for 4 to 4.5 per thousand.
Yeah.
I've got the code at 3.3 per thousand with
Per
the
1,000 square feet, is that what it is?
4.4 to 4.5 per thousand,
So
Okay.
which
pretty
is
much-
consistent with county,
Yeah, yeah.
in there. So yes, if you look at the number of employees, yes, but at one
Understood.
point this site had over 300 people
Exactly.
in there. The goal here is to find the right balance in there. And then if you look at Enterprise, they have over 750 parking spaces. We're hoping we get to 200 employees,
Wow.
soon. So yeah, the industrial park is overparked. It's overparked because of the policy decisions of the past
Yeah.
in there. I think this site is balanced well. The parking's in the back. There's a lot of good things about it and the way it's designed that the city did well. But yes, it is a lot of parking. But I think as I considered the special permit, and we did have a little bit of discussion about the number of stalls. It's hard to place it on the number of people that are employed. If this building has a bigger capacity than that, I appreciate that they're only going to have 100 people in a building that could hold well over 300 people. But I really do hope that the business model is great and it improves and it becomes a major employer in our community and within the region. And I think it's pretty well balanced. If they were 5 per thousand stalls or up to the 6 per thousand stalls, I think that would be a reasonable request. But it's not out of the character of what you would find in many of the planning documents.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Carlos. I mean, tonight we're just agreeing to the special use permit, but the design standards down the road are still subject to our approval. Is that correct?
If they do any additional modifications to the building exterior, yes.
Okay, because I heard him say the architect had just been selected, which suggests that they are going to maybe do something. And I'm just wondering if even if you don't reduce the number of spots, will this site, because it's already previously developed, have to comply with any stormwater considerations because of the concrete and paved, parking area? And is there a way to incorporate maybe some stormwater detentions to capture some of the rainwater that will inevitably flow somewhere else? Would that be something that can be dealt with down the road in the design phase?
If there are issues, I'm not aware of any issues from MSD regarding the current design in the industrial parks, but that water does go somewhere, as you noted, in there. We know that we've had issues up in is it 118th Street or so in U City in there, but it's something we can continue that discussion in there. Within our code, again, unless they were expanding the parking, would that trigger
Or
the
expanding the
additional detention? And in this case, we're not looking for them to expand it.
Right. Okay. I was just curious how exactly
question.
that was going to flow.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion with any of the members here in the audience as well as online? Well, thank you guys for being here and talking about it. We appreciate your time and efforts, for that. Is there any more discussion amongst the commission members? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Laura.
A motion to recommend the city council to consider authorizing a special use permit for Atari Group to permit Mercy to operate an ambulatory pharmacy on the property grounds at 9321 Olive Boulevard, and approve the petition for site plan, community design, and concept stormwater review as illustrated in the permit plans presented to the commission on November 20th, 2025, and noted in the memorandum for the Department of Community Development dated December 4th, 2025, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Laura Ragsdale. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Petrie Powell. Carlos, please call the vote.
All right. Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approve.
Commissioner Ford,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Joey Gale.
Approved.
So the motion is a recommendation to the city council. This item will then be forwarded to the city council for a public hearing. I apologize, I don't have the date in here, but it'll be their first formal meeting. No, not in January,
Oh, in January.
2026. And there would also be a public hearing held that council reads it twice, and then if approved by council, then it becomes official.
Very good.
All right?
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we look forward to the new business here in town. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay, we'll move on to item B, text amendment for the LID Light Industrial District regarding data centers. Carlos.
Okay, Chairman, just continuing on our discussion. I'm not going to ask for any specific action tonight, but we're getting closer in terms of trying to draft a ordinance to control data centers. First thing I'll note is we have not been approached by anybody regarding
Right.
a petition for a data center. A matter of fact, this facility was the one I was scared about, and I think we got a really good tenant
Good.
for the site because given its size and building volume that usually meets a lot of the preferred vendors. So, they provided you the definition of what a data center is. We use the North American Industrial Classification System for those definitions. They're provided by the feds, and it's called data processing, hosting, and related services. Now, we adopted and there was a question that was asked. We adopted the 2007 version. I believe the current version is 2021. Our code still references the 2007 in there. And there have been some significant changes, but we hope one day we will update that. So right now I'm looking at the definitions and the classifications that are in the 2007 volume because that's the one our code references in there.
Is there a difference in definition?
No,
Okay.
no, they're pretty consistent, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that weren't back in 2007 that are more consistent. And I thought this was going to be one, but it was pretty well laid out in there. Now, data processing centers are permitted in our light industrial park. They're not permitted in the COR district. They're not permitted in the PA district or any other district except the light industrial district. And right now, under our ordinance, they're permitted by right. So if somebody was looking at, let's say, I'm going to use this building that was here before us, for example, all they would be doing is applying for their building permit for interior renovations and getting an occupancy inspection. They would have had nothing to do with any commission or anything with the council. We want to change that. I also will stress, we don't have the authority to prohibit a use, but we can establish reasonable regulations to ensure that the use is consistent and compatible with our community's character and the district itself in there. And that's what we're hoping to do here. We're suggesting to provide a specific definition for the data centers as under the 2007, to amend the LID district in no longer permitted by right, but move it in as a special permit use. Now, we do have a similar user that is not a data center, but it falls pretty close in comparison. Charter Communications or Spectrum has a major, I forgot, not hub here, and there's a proper term for it that escapes me right now. However, that is
Customer service?
pardon?
Customer service?
No, it's like all the internet comes here and then gets distributed outward.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a a network hub. Maybe it's a net hub
Yeah.
in there. And they operate 2 buildings in our industrial park. They used to have 4 in there. They're down to 2. And all that is kind of like the highway,
Yeah.
They're just moving things where data centers actually are taking things and rearranging it and filing it. That requires a lot of energy. What they do in the other hub is completely different. And they've been in the city well before I started in 2002. So I don't, as far as I know, for ages um, in there. And we don't want to make them non-conforming. They've been a great they've invested heavily in their properties, in their industrial parks, and a good community asset in there. So we don't want to, like, in any way impact, the services that they're providing or make them non-conforming all of a sudden. So this would be specific to data centers. There's a different term for those. I think it's wired telecommunication carriers. That minimizes the impact on charter communications in there. Now, as a special permit, again, it's a use. It's not permitted by right. It is subject to the recommendation by the commission and ultimate approval by the council, and the council has the authority to say no. And we've done that before. We did it with a cultivation facility several years ago. So in this case, the conditions for consideration, given what happens in a data processing, hosting, and related type of service center, we would recommend that, the site be at least 3 acres, that it has to be at least 300 feet from the nearest residentially zoned boundary.
Can I ask you a question right at
Yes.
that point?
Mhm.
How is the 300 feet determined? Because, there's a lot of information out there about the noise issue. It's not so much decibel as it is a constant buzz, and that can be heard pretty far. And I'm just wondering why 300 feet and why not more than that?
Well, it
For
would be one or
residential.
the other. You either have noise control and mitigation as a means in there, or you just put it far, but we still have to be able to permit it in the city. The three,
Why? Why do we have to permit it in the city
it's required by law.
oh, okay. State law?
It's federal. We would be, it's an equal protection question type of thing. And I can ask the city attorney like to give a more legal type of opinion, but we don't have the capacity to not permit a type of use like adult entertainment. It's permitted in the city of Olivet, but it's very regulated and say that same with cultivation centers.
For the marijuana, is that
Yes.
what you refer to? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, we could adjust that 300 feet number.
Correct. If we are willing to compromise on the noise control and mitigation. So they have to be reasonably related. I think if you are going to go 300 feet, then you should be provided you should be required to provide noise control and mitigation. And we would want an independent consultant to do that. And there. Now we'll put we'll put a map together to kind of illustrate and identify
That would
what
be, I think
properties.
that'd be very helpful to see.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. So we'll get that together for our next meeting
Okay.
in there. And then that we would require some type of building performance standards on energy usage. Now, on something like that gets beyond the scope and capacity of the city of Olivet. It's something I was taking a look into in terms of what I have access, what expertise I have on staff to be able to make those decisions, and where they would get that information. And I'm not sure how that would be done. We talked about it as a commission as a whole, and that was thrown out. I did look to see what other communities had, and they had like specific threshold standards, but a lot of those communities controlled the utility services that were being provided, where here in Olivet, we don't have that control. They're provided by these semi-public or utility services like Ameren, Missouri American Water, and they don't share the information or data. Like if
Under
we,
building performance standard, you have it just on energy usage. Can it be energy and water? Because I understand that's a huge issue. The water requirements for the cooling stations, and this may be 2 separate questions, but I'm going to bring up the fact that we have a reservoir And I'm wondering how the reservoir, in terms of water access, do we control that, or is that completely Missouri American? Because they say, and other communities have had trouble with water availability to residents because the water is all being used for the cooling centers.
It'll be
So I
two
just want to, I realize we may not have the expertise, but that's something we can require besides a standard for energy usage. I think we should also be looking at the water usage so that residents.
as long as
and
we have an
businesses-
understanding of
Yeah.
what is acceptable and what is not acceptable.
Right,
And we have
right.
those parameters. And that's
Yeah.
where we don't, the water reservoir that, let's say like the one that's in Stacy Park,
Yeah.
we don't have access to. That only services the city of St. Louis. Now,
Oh, okay.
Now, however, on the other side of Lindbergh, American Water has their reservoir in the tanks right by the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Okay, and I think that's one of their main holding areas in there. However, we don't have, because they're a public or private entity, have access to like the usage information in there. So a lot of the communities that you've seen on there, let's say like Memphis, San Francisco, or so, they're running their own utilities. So the city itself has all that data and access. On this situation, we don't. We're just a customer to the larger
Yeah.
service provider.
But we
So
can't
if you
ask
look
for
at
that
the
information
build.
from them? And
Pardon?
how much water they're going to be using for one of these
Ye-
centers?
I
We can't
can't
ask
ask.
that question?
I can't ask Ameren to find out how much water you use at your residence.
No, but you can ask the resident if they want to do something that's going to consume a great deal of water. I mean, I would think, especially since that's one of the primary complaints about these huge data centers is that they're sucking the water out of the ground. And
We can
it's
ask
affecting
petition-
everybody around
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, we can ask the petitioner how much.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is can we require them to give us information on water and how it's going to impact the rest of the community's access to water?
I
Okay,
think that's fair.
and it would be how that's crafted. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting
I
that
think the
we,
whole idea that Petrie wants to ensure is that it doesn't impact the community.
right.
That
That's
the
my only
utilities
concern.
have sufficient capacity so that the neighborhood itself isn't impacted.
Right. The neighborhood or the larger community.
Yes.
So that,
Yes.
then just to make sure, again, because as a planner, that information would come back from the utility provider. We would be asking the utility provider, do you have sufficient capacity to accommodate this customer?
I think that's a perfectly legitimate question to ask of the water provider.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So in trying to codify this, the building performance standard is that they would provide from the utility provider a statement indicating that they have a no impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes
Yeah.
okay.
As long as
And we would
legally
both-
we're allowed to do that.
No
but
negative
well,
impact.
we are.
I mean, we're blessed in Missouri of having more water than we know what to do with for the most part, but there may be still consequences of of a cooling,
But the one thing I want to make sure, because again, it's professionally, this has to be consistent, so if Missouri American Water says they're fine, that they have made that statement and that complies with the performance standard. What I don't want to do is like, well, but we still
Are concerned.
yes.
Well, maybe
I don't
some
think we
additional
have-
research on that,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of communities that are looking at this right now. I would imagine
Yes.
that there is information out there to be able to assess a project and the impact on the water resources in the surrounding community. There has to be. There just has to be.
Yes, but it's apples and oranges. I just want to make a good clarification, especially in the St. Louis regional area where we have, private utility service providers for the municipality. A lot of those that we hear, the municipality is the service provider.
Yeah, I understand
I just wanna
that
make sure.
point.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we can't ask them for that information.
Correct.
to assure that when I turn on my tap in my sink in my kitchen, that water is going to come out.
Well, but the utility provider is going to consent to that. It's not whether your
Well, what-
experience is, it's,
How much excess capacity they would
Mhm.
have after the utility?
Well, I think this is all an area that needs to be thought about and researched still maybe a little further to address concerns, because it's the noise in the water that seem to be the biggest issues, from all the reading I've done on the question. And I realize that we don't control the utility. However, we do, if we find that, Missouri American is saying, opines that yes, it's going to affect the area, I think that should be a consideration.
yes.
Now, whether they pass on everything just because they love consumption of water, I don't know. But I feel like we wouldn't be doing our duty to the citizens if we didn't have some way of assessing the impact on water resources within our community.
No,
That's
and
all.
I'm comfortable with that as long as it's
Yeah.
coming from the provider, the service.
Yeah.
I did read something or listen to a podcast this week, and they were talking about these utility companies have to a lot of times run new lines
Mhm.
for these, and they typically do that free of charge, but then charge all the community.
Yeah. It's a
for
big
those
problem.
lines. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there sufficient, I guess the question is really, is there sufficient infrastructure for a big facility like what we're seeing across the country?
Yeah. Okay.
And then the other thing, of course, I'll throw in that the state is also looking at this, and typically they look at it more from the business perspective and the potential there as opposed to the
It's a
community
huge money issue.
purpose. So
Yeah.
there may be limitations in terms of what we can and can't do. We should have this in place before the next session, but we may have to come back periodically to make any adjustments.
Yeah. I did hear something that Ameren was coming out with something as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you know much about? I don't know.
No, I know that there was and actually it was from the state, and then Ameren is establishing some type of policy
Yeah.
in place, but most of them are looking at it as customers
Yes.
in there. And the only like similar type of uses like um, there's an aluminum smelting plant somewhere in south central Missouri in there that is able to buy their electrical rates at a discount because they buy it in bulk and below the market price. But again, everybody else is paying that gap, so
Yes.
there's a lot of shuffling that goes into play to things like that. So
Yeah. Very interesting. Go ahead, Brent.
Do you mind going back to the previous slide, Carlos?
Sure.
Well, just one thing to think about with legal is, again, charter wouldn't shock me if charter wanted to get into the data communication or data hosting. So, they're a wired telecommunication carrier. You could argue some of this is wireless, some of it's data, but I'm just wondering if the language is a little bit too, they are, are we opening ourselves up if charter were to all of a sudden want to be a data center? Does they have to come back for a new special use permit if they
it would
wish
be
to?
an expansion of their existing operations.
So that would come back to us then?
It would.
Okay.
And the process of something like that is probably that we'd get a building permit for some type of renovations or something, and that it gets picked up by the reviewer, like, well, wait a minute, this is not
Not the same as what you're doing.
Pro-
Yeah. And again, data
It's-
processing, I would say charter does data processing, hosting. These are all tough terms. I understand what you're
Yeah.
trying to say. I'm just saying like charter does hosting, they do data processing.
and that was one of the things,
It's
like
tough.
they are not a lack of a better word, a TV provider. They're not a phone provider. These things have morphed to things in an effort to, like, they're not a franchise, and they do this in a purpose to kind of get around the tax requirements.
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
interesting. I just want to make sure no one's going to loophole us on it, but I hear what you're saying.
It's a good
So,
good point.
I'm curious if this has been written, how it's been written in other communities, maybe steal their language too, if we didn't already.
Mhm. And we tried to find a map. We believe that there is a map out there that shows like other hosting locations, cable provider hosting locations or internet, similar like the
Yeah.
Charter.
It's a gray area just because again, there might be a traffic or a network hub. Arguably, that's what a data center is too. I agree it moves things around, it processes it, but you could make an argument that we're a network. Yeah.
Now, what I
Yeah.
will say that their buildings are substantially smaller than what we would see. So let's say like this 105,000 square foot building,
Mhm.
what Charter has, I think, is like two 10,000 square foot buildings.
Yeah.
So
The charter buildings are very small over in the industrial park.
Okay.
Do we have to identify the amount of data processing, like the size? Would that be helpful?
How many terabytes we're talking about? I don't know. It's
I don't know.
the problem is again, Charter today may not be doing it, but data's getting cheaper, but terabytes upon terabytes can just get done really quickly, and especially as data doesn't need as much space anymore, which is impressive. I'd hate to put a number in, you know.
Yeah.
This is one of those you know when you see it.
Right.
So I'd almost rather make it you put an exception there, I agree, or you grandfather them in, or something like that. Is that a possibility? Like let
No,
everything come to us and we
they
grandfather them
they
in.
can be grandfathered in, but then I think as part of the process, we need to make sure that they're informed and aware of the changes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, maybe you make it more broad to say anyone who's doing data or technical work, we want to just have a special use permit. And if someone like a new charter came in, we'd be like, yeah, we understand what you're doing. We're okay with it. You're not using the resources. You're not asking for new utilities. You're not touching the water. And we grandfather charter in because they're a good, business in the community. So
Right.
I'd just rather make it more come before us. And this isn't going to be often,
No.
if at all. So I agree. That site was the most prevalent of, if
Yeah,
Honeywell
and
or
that was a part of the Commissioner Powell there was a concern with this now being occupied. I'm not under time constraint to try to get this. We can spend a little bit more time, get the wording correct,
Yeah.
and do a little bit more research on some of these questions.
Good. Okay, great. All right.
Anything else on that? I mean, there was some good feedback. Again, we may have some revisions for the 20th. If not, we'll bring this back after we had an opportunity to take a look at that stuff.
I think it's great.
All right.
It's moving along. So good. Okay, so we'll move on to item 4, 2024 comprehensive plan.
Okay, real quickly, so I apologize. We had prepared the written packets, and then we made the decision this afternoon in there. So I have most of the written packets here. But we made sure all the links were updated on the website, but that was only if you had the ability to take a look at the links prior to that. So I'm going to make the assumption that not everyone did in there. But we do want to get moving on this process. So Don sent out the first survey. In there, we got everybody participated in there in that process. And I'm going to go through just a couple of things. I'm not going to go through the community, the vision and the community goals. We all know all that. But I will focus a little bit on what the council is looking in terms of their priorities, and that's the design quality consistently on Olive, the streetscape enhancements. In terms of environmental sustainability is removing barriers to solar panels, outdoor lighting regulations, and continued improvements to the stormwater. And then diverse housing, which is the first goal that we address, is the adjust the zoning regulations to allow subdividing of larger lots into smaller lots, and new regulations to manage the size and impact of new homes and major developments in there. So goal A was in the comprehensive plans to encourage high quality housing that is diverse in terms of type and price in there. The objectives that we heard from the as assembled from the community input was improve the quality and maintenance of all housing, increase housing types and accommodations that allow for age in place, maintain or increase housing that is affordable, increase options for single family housing to respond to the changing demographics, preferences, and encourage sustainable practices. A couple of facts. So under our new permitting system, which is now all uses data.
Yeah. Are you processing that?
Yes, we can calculate things, and so this goes back to January 2021 when we implemented that. I want the commission to know 225 property owners have done interior remodels to their homes.
great.
85 have done basement finishes to their homes, and 135 houses have done additions to their existing housing stock. And you can see the total amount. In that same period, we've only done 73 new homes in there. And you can see the cost per permit in there. People are significantly investing on our housing stock. We have approximately 3,555 dwelling units in our community. Dwelling units include everything from a detached single-family house to an apartment complex. So we know about 1,000 of those are apartments or attached homes. So we have roughly 2,500 detached single-family houses in all of that. Now, all this is in the information in the comp plan. These are now directly from the comp plan in there. And you can see a majority of our housing stock was built in the 1950s. And then you can see like the newest housing stock, which is almost is close to 15% has replaced some of those units. Now, understand that includes, that we added 500 new apartments in the past couple of years in there, and townhouse developments in that process. So make sure you're aware of these. So these are factual numbers, and we can get more data if there's any information, any additional information the commission would like to take a look at in there. So now let's go to, we asked the commission to kind of prioritize the potential community actions that were under this, and this is where we came in. And then what I've highlighted in yellow is where the council's priorities were. So the one that the top two that we heard from the commission, the 7 commission members, was to consider code adjustments in terms of the subdividing of larger lots into smaller lots, and then to develop a comprehensive housing plan. Then after that was the adoption of a renter's bill of right, and then support energy efficiency, new regulations to manage size and bulk, and then collaborate with local residential developers, workshops, partnerships, and then provide external resources. And then we had 5 additional community actions that were noted by the commission members. I'll get into those later. So anyway, so we're going to go through each of these goals and put together something like this, what your results are, how they were prioritized, and then talk about it, and then ultimately kind of combine all 8 to 10 goals and then prioritize those so we know where we're focusing and also know where the council is and what they'd like to see in that process. A couple of things that I wanted to note that like this one here, the Bill of Rights, that's not something that the commission's going to address. That will probably come from the council. Workshops, probably something that the commission may not address, but there's a lot of things that our Parks Department does with the Olivet Advocates, Sustainability Advocates, with the Missouri Botanical Gardens and other sessions that they hold. So there's a lot of these things that are going on that are
Outside of our.
correct in there. So, when, as a commission takes a look at those, consider those that are within your scope of change, and then those that are not, and we can provide you information of how those are moving along.
And the last one too, connect residents to external, that seems more like a staff type of
Correct.
function,
In there. Now, the other items that the commission brought up were, accessory dwelling units, tiny homes and prefabricated homes in efforts to control costs, restrictions on allowing demolition by right. There's been this question about massing requirements that I like to discuss. The disincentive to older homes to defer maintenance due to the diminished long-term value, and then concerns over how we review like houses one at a time. So we never get a full holistic approach because we're always looking at things that are as at a puzzle, but at the different pieces as opposed to the whole. And I think they're all very good points that are noted in there. But I think you know, what we're trying to get from staff is, okay, if we were to say we need to focus on two specific items, what I'm hearing here is the subdivision of larger lots and a comprehensive housing plan that assesses the current housing stock. So we kind of like brainstormed.
You have though highlighted, consider new regulations to manage size and impact highlighted.
Yes, and that's one of the council's priorities.
Okay, I thought the yellow were the two priorities.
No, this is the commission rankings.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay.
And then
okay.
yellow
I
reflects.
didn't follow that. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize if I didn't explain it in there. So what and how we did the rankings, high got 3 points, medium got 2 points, and low got 1 point.
Gotcha.
So this is where and they're not far apart from everything, but it gave us some idea to at least to put some stock into it. So, you know, we've been talking about it internally from planning staff. We'll come back to the commission with some thoughts and ideas. Be glad to, you know, depending on time, we can go over, or there's things I can bring forward, or we can just kind of inform you, this is the direction that we're going. Now, the latest survey, which is sustainability, was sent out by Dawn on Tuesday. It's a longer survey, but please take the time and effort to go through that. Should be on there. I'll double check with her. And try to get that done by Monday.
Okay.
And then as we'll get these put together, and then we'll continue to work on the council's priorities through all that process. But then this sets the, you know, and ultimately what I look at here is like the top two. I'm just going to use that as a number, or top three or top four, you know, is going to be probably our focus areas for the next 5 years. Those are short term. And then things that are going to be longer term, and then things that are always consistently moving.
But I do think, Matt, you know, looking at smaller houses, you know, if we're going to subdivide lots, how does that impact, you know, the types of houses?
So the way our massing calculations work, they're based on a percentage. So the larger the lot, the bigger the house. The
Right.
smaller the lot, the smaller the house. So it's all based on the percentage in there. So again, it goes in proportion. So if the city allows smaller lots, then they're promoting smaller homes.
No, I get that.
Okay.
But in terms of setbacks, you know, things like that, you know, if we start going into smaller lots, do we need to adjust some of the setbacks or not? We ran into that one time, I believe, I can't remember the street, but the houses that they were proposing was like right on the setbacks. And like the side doors were impacting, like the step going into the side door, you know, that was a potential, you know, issue. And then I think it was if they had a air conditioning unit on the side of the
Correct.
house, you know, so ways to kind of, I mean, look at that to still allow these smaller houses to actually fit on the smaller lot
Correct.
might be something that we need to kind of think about.
Well, and it ultimately depends. And I think again, I say that the council's minimum, and this is what came from the commission as a recommendation, that in no case should a setback be less than 5 feet
Yeah.
In there. So we don't, in a residential setting, we don't permit a zero lot line type
Right.
of a thing. So it's always been 5 feet and to have a clear and open path.
For
So
detached.
correct.
But if they were attached houses,
Then similar to across the street or Castle Cave Villas or Hilltop Manor, we do permit the zero lot line
okay. Makes sense.
process. But in a detached home or detached setting, then it would have been a 5 foot distance. And the reason it is because they also hit a threshold in the building code that if they go under 10 feet, then the firewall requirements completely change between the two structures.
Right, okay.
Now, that's already anticipated when you're doing attached homes,
Yeah,
but not necessarily looked at when you're doing detached homes.
exact, that's it. And then you might be able to do it for the new house, but you wouldn't be able to do it for the existing house.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Go ahead, Brian.
Carlos, do you anticipate, it is interesting to see where the council's line up with the commissions. Do you anticipate when we're done with this with the 5 or how many we're doing, like we're going to kind of take which ones have the intersections? And then us as council will kind of look at it and then determine where we start talking about, litigation. I mean, not litigation, actual amendments or changes to
Correct. Well,
code.
the way I look at it, I mean, the council's given us some direction of which ones that they are
Yep.
prioritizing. We're finding out where they fall. Now, 16 is not far from 19,
No.
the rankings is, but that we would focus on the council's priorities and then also create the commissions. Now, the council at any time has a right to change the priorities and then bring it back to the commission. So the way I kind of see this is like, let's say, I'm going to use a simple one. If we establish new regulations for solar panels, that checks off one of the commission priorities, but it is possible that the commission may throw 3 more, and we got to see how they fit in the commission's priorities.
Yeah.
Or
Well, and I'd like to see, it'll be interesting to see the big list at the end to say which ones were maybe in the top 2 or 3 and also met with us. And then doesn't mean we wouldn't work in the others, but we prioritize on those.
Makes
Because
sense.
it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to do it in a silo. We want to do it. We're going to maybe have public comments. We want to come back to the commission and
Yeah.
say what you think. Because again, my view of considering code adjustments such as permitting subdivision larger lots might be very different than everyone else's. And knowing some of my commission members, I think, or council member members, I think we're probably very comfortable trying to figure out ways to find smaller houses, more affordable, and things like that. But I want to ask you what problems does that bring for you? Like you said, and I think setbacks is a great example.
Based on, let's say, the past 5 years, the response has been contrary to subdividing into smaller units.
Yep.
And let's take Sleepy Hollow and Old Bottom, and everybody complains about the 3 houses that replace that one house in there, and that so it's trying to figure out what is the actual issue.
And I think I hate to say part of it too is a different council, and we have a different council, and we have more change coming, and so I think it's new people, new priorities, things like that. Again, one person's opinion, but my view is a diverse set of housing with diverse sizes, diverse incomes, diverse people are better.
Absolutely.
That's my view. Not everyone's view. They want more people. Some people are concerned about their property values being higher. And I get that. I'm not saying I want property values to go down, but there's a point of what is our objective. So I think, but this is good. I'm glad we're having these conversations. I think this was a very good first step, and it's very it's starting to become more tangible. So I think it's great.
I was doing some searches on like Zillow. That's by no means anything scientific, but looking at, houses that are less than 2,000 square feet that were built in the kind of the last 5 years and seeing where they were and, what they look like. They're definitely not in this central corridor, but you see them in U City, you see them kind of overland, St. Charles.
Lots are smaller too, which forces it.
Exactly. So that's interesting.
And one of the things this goes
Still talking.
Sorry. I'm very sorry. No, go ahead.
Can I finish just real quick?
absolutely.
I'll be
At this
quick.
point,
I'll be
I don't wanna
quick.
forget.
But one of the things I did notice is most of the garages protrude out from the house. Now, they look nice. They didn't look bad, but they do look similar to each other. Now, I was probably picking up a similar builder doing the exact same thing, but trying to get unique houses that fit, it could be a challenge, as well. But I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker, but how does that affect, our I forget, our whatever that plan, not a plan, it's our recommendations, or what is that manual that we have? Well,
The guidelines.
the guidelines. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, Carlos, I'm done.
So, because it was going back to the point you brought about Overland, U City,
Yeah.
and there. So, I started my days in Creve Coeur.
Yeah.
And we had 4 different single-family residential detached districts, each with different lot size minimums. Then coming to Olivet and finding that there was only one single-family residential district. So we're trying to apply this this applies to all. And U City had something similar, right? And apparently we must have taken it from U City. And there was a decision in 1986 to, I think Olivet had 3 or 4 residential districts to consolidate it into one single family residential district. That's why when you see the map, it's all yellow in there, and apply all of this throughout the city, you know.
Facing to everything.
Yeah, so, but you go to Creve Coeur, and even in a ward, you can have multiple single-family residential districts throughout that. And that was interesting. And once I talked about like high acres, you know, these are minimum 40,000 square foot lots per their indentures and all that. And per our code, you can get 4 houses on those. But where we, you know, what are we gonna do when that first one comes in? Because at that time, the mindset was, you know, that they wanted 1 acre lot.
Yeah.
In there. And so the only way to salvage something like that, or like a Chevy Chase, and where you have smaller lots, is to create different, you know, they should be zoned differently.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
And especially like in the Hilltop Arrowhead and Indian Meadows, you know, when they did the house placements, they usually put the carport within 5 feet of the lot line. So now to do a 2-car carport or 2-car garage, you can't, because our zoning
Right.
wouldn't permit it, but yet on the bedroom side, they're 20, 30 feet from the property line. You know,
It's like they need to swap land from one side to the other.
yeah, it's very interesting on how some of those,
Yeah.
and it may be going back to their original indentures of what was their intent, that maybe there have been some codes where it's like on one side you have no less than 5, you know, like you have a side yard setback that should total 20, with no side being, one side being no less than 5. So you could allow 5 foot on the east and 25 on the west. And the neighbor could have their 5 foot on the west, but that means they have to apply their 25
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
on the east. So there are some interesting things out there.
Right. Are there any residences in Indian Meadows that have garage ports side by side?
Yes, but you know, and there's setbacks, you know, but not like within 10 feet of each other. Is that what you're at?
Yeah,
But
that's what
yes,
I'm
but
asking.
the layouts are about the same.
That's it. Okay. Interesting.
So another thing we thought about the comprehensive housing plan, we have a house that's coming in on the 20th, and we looked at that as, okay, why is that, you know, why are they redeveloping that lot? And that house has, you know, 1 bathroom on the first level for the 3 bedrooms, and a half a bathroom in the basement, in a partial portion of a basement, and a carport. It wasn't that the house was like a deteriorated condition.
Right.
It could have used some picking up on it, but it was a single carport. There's no master bath, and the small rooms, you know, within a quarter mile from Old Bonham School. So the only value to that property was the ground, because the house, you weren't going to pay the price, you know, to be
The
that close to
premium.
the school for that structure.
It could be done, but you're going to have less customers that would be willing. And if you have less customers that would be willing to do that, then you're going to have a lower price.
Then we followed.
Or you have, you know, young families that can't afford $600,000 and would be happy to have a house with 3 bedrooms and 1 bath so that they could walk to a Ladue school.
If a property owner is willing to take that discount.
Well, the demolition value is already a discount, right? I mean, like one of the things that I think I feel like we're seeing is, why would, if you have a small house like I happen to have with 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms and 1 bath on the first floor, is I have no incentive to improve or maintain my house, because the minute I want to put it up for sale, it's going to get demolished and a big house put in its place. And so I think we have to think about, you know, that these smaller homes have value if you want to have a diverse community. And so you're beating between two, opposite viewpoints. One is to get better housing, bigger housing, whatever, versus your desire to have, aging in place and affordability and, and still maintain smaller homes. But if everybody is like looking to make a buck, down the road when we die and our kids have to sell the house, they don't care. They don't care if the house has been improved. They just want as much as they can get for it, and they're going to get more for demolition value. So I don't know. I think it's a real big dilemma for us, that I think, we shouldn't just say, oh, one bathroom is not good enough for a single family home. I just don't, I guess I'm just not seeing that
Just
in this day and
limits.
age with families not being able to afford homes, that it's to our benefit and somehow a policy that that home get replaced by a 6-bedroom, 3-car garage house. I just don't. The disconnect just feels really off to me if we are saying we care about affordability and we care about diversity. That's like I said, that's just my opinion. But I don't think anybody's thinking about why these small houses are deteriorating and becoming, quote, dilapidated. It's because they have no reason to do improvements. They're not going to get the value of the improvements if every little house gets demolished. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I think it's a good point, and I'm not going to discredit that point. But I lived in Chevy Chase. I had 1.5 bathrooms, and I had 4 kids. I couldn't live in there, really easily, and we looked at doing a big addition, to add. Basically, we wanted to add 1 bedroom, so our kids had rooms, and then also add a bath, and the price to do that addition was going to be far more than what we would what that the value of the new house with the addition would be. Um, and it be, construction on those smaller houses it's tough. And they basically told us we were going to have to move out because the only access point, was going to be through the only bathroom we had, And so, it became an economics issue. Uh, but that house is still there, and it's still being lived in, so I think there's definitely a value. They did not tear it down. I mean, it was in good shape when I had it. There was a contractor. The the next owner sold it to a contractor who just kind of renovated it, and it's still around. So I definitely think there's a market, for houses like that. And it's how do we kind of encourage, people to want to do renovation as opposed to just selling it to a developer or something like that? I don't know. That's kind of a challenge, I think. But I do think that you have to acknowledge the fact that if your house, doesn't have a garage, or if it doesn't have, so many bathrooms, the number of people that are going to be looking at that house, your market is diminished. And that's just the reality of, I think, housing, the housing market. So go ahead.
So I also agree with you, Petrie. Like I grew up over off a hilltop. I lived off a hilltop my entire life until 5 years ago. And I grew up in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lived in what was my great grandmother's house. She gave it to my husband and I for our wedding gift.
Nice grandma.
Right. And it was honestly right across the street from my mom's house. So it was really nice and convenient. But again, that one was 3 bedrooms with 1 bath and a detached garage. that was not really functional because of the way the driveway was. You had to like jog to get into the garage, so a car couldn't get between the house and the neighbor's fence because of the property lines. And their fence was, it was very odd. So a car couldn't get between the houses to get back to the garage. So the garage was inaccessible for a car. So when we were moving, like we had talked about tearing down and making a larger kitchen because I literally had like 16 inches of counter space in that house and was miserable. So I wanted a larger kitchen. So like I had a priority list when we were moving, and the was a larger kitchen. I wanted a attached garage. I wanted certain things. I wanted 2 bathrooms with having a teenager. And I wanted to stay in the school district. That was our son's #1 priority. I can't even tell you how many houses I looked at. And, you know, did I get the perfect house? No. Am I happy? Yes. But I also didn't buy one of the McMansions either. I couldn't afford one. I wouldn't want one either. One of my absolutely favorite houses is for sale right now over in Chevy Chase. And
Yeah, it's just sitting there.
it's just sitting there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love that house. And I'm just like, oh, that house is, yes, it's one of my favorite houses in this whole community. And it's for sale right now. And I'm like, oh, it's such a cute house. But, so I see both sides of it. Like, it's very hard to do construction on some of those older homes because of the types of walls. Like you go to hang a picture and you hit a nail in and the wall crumbles because it's the old plaster, not even drywall. Like there's complications with it. There is a gentleman who has done a couple like really good rehabs um, here in the community. He did, um, I know a couple in Indian Meadows that he's done a fabulous job. Um, he did one also up across from Stacy Park, and then he is done another one over off of Old Bonham. So, I mean, there are people, but again, I don't know. I don't have the perfect answer. I would like to see some more affordable housing because I mean, I was looking everywhere, and I agree that 650,000 is not what I would consider affordable housing. So.
I'm
My 2 cents.
curious of these renovators,
Mhm.
what their thoughts are of renovating in Olivet.
Well, I
if
can get
there's-
Carlos his name and
That would
contact
be-
info. So,
That
I
would be
mean,
good, because,
because I know he's done a couple. So you probably have his number.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
yeah, because that would
Mhm.
be interesting. It's not that I don't like new construction.
Mhm.
I think it needs to be a balance,
Mhm.
but the easiest way to have affordable house is to reuse an existing house. To
It's
build,
also the greenest, most sustainable way of meeting those goals. the
Yeah,
When
sustainability
when
goals.
they were going to tear ours down, he came over and I told him he could take whatever he wanted out of my house.
right.
And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "They're going to tear it down, so take whatever you want."
But,
So.
even to build, let's say, a house, a smaller house,
Mhm.
take whatever street you want. What would the price be for a new construction of a smaller house that's, 2,000 square feet, and I think it's worthwhile to kind of understand what that cost would be, from a new construction point of view, to kind of help understand what is affordable here in town.
And I think going back to the conversation of, I think builders, if there's a lot that's large, are going to build the largest house they can because there will be someone who will buy it and they're going to make the most money that way. So back to the #1 there on the list is if we have smaller lot sizes, that kind of forces the hand of smaller houses.
Mhm.
So I think I struggle. I hear everything everyone's saying. I do struggle because there might be people who just can't afford to upkeep their house, and then they go to try to sell it. And to your point, it's very few people looking for what 3 bedroom, 1 bath. There are some, and I agree with Peter. I'd love to have a young family come in who can't afford it, but if they can get, I don't know, making this up, 400,000 from a developer versus 200,000 from a sale, They're gonna go, it's gonna be, they couldn't afford to keep it up because maybe fixed income. But I think if we're able to look at things like smaller houses, smaller lots, if that starts pushing it to where people are gonna build really nice houses on smaller lots, it's still not
Out of
gonna
cur-
be better.
On that point, Brian, I wonder, Carlos, do we have copies of all the indentures of all the different homeowners associations to see if what requirements are there that would, even if we would change the code in some way to allow for smaller lots, we would be butting into deed restrictions by the HOAs? I'm just curious, do we really even have the capacity to change, to address this issue if the requirements are, by most homeowners associations, you have to have an acre lot or half acre or whatever it is. Do we have all those indentures?
No.
That might be an interesting, we could be wasting our time talking about all of this, if all these homeowners associations, would prevent us from dividing up some of these larger lots into smaller lots. That may not be even a possibility with the deed restrictions of an HOA. So,
Yeah, I just learned at our annual HOA meeting that we can't have 2 stories. I didn't know that.
Yep.
So,
And that's the position of the city in the past, and this is going before me, was like the subdivisions were the city was not going to interfere with the subdivision and their indentures and wanted a complete separation. I think that's kind of changed, and I think the council is probably more acceptable to it, but like we would not keep any of the indentures, and we wanted nothing to do with the trustees or the process in there. And I mean, some of the thought was, I think the attorney at the time too was their recommendation to the council, like you enforce just the city's regulations and you let the subdivision do their own. We've changed a lot of that. We work closely with Chevy Chase and their architectural review board, with Indian Meadows, Oak Estates. We know when something comes in, who to contact. But there's so many subdivisions here. There are several that I don't even know who they are. And then most importantly is like, if they know that their indentures have expired because there was never a vote taken to renew them after their 20-year or 30-year period. And there are other subdivisions that are having a hard time trying to amend their indentures so they can assess more than $50 a year.
Am I correct that, again, going to your HOA, right now the law states because 2-story houses are allowed, in theory, someone in your subdivision could build it. And yes, the HOA could try to sue them,
Correct. It
they
becomes
could.
but it's legal to build it. It's a question of if they go to court.
so
Yeah, it would be
But-
it's a contractual obligation that you have with your homeowners.
If you, but
So
that's
what I
again,
was
assuming it's
told
kept up.
was somebody wanted to do an addition and put a 2-story, like a 2-story addition in, and they had to get so many signatures of neighbors to approve it, and they got the signatures, but then decided not to do it, and then, so
if-
there was some kind of whole
But let's
thing.
just say they did it, and the only recourse would be your HOA
Right.
taking them to court.
Yes,
You all
That would
want,
be their option.
Right.
you all want to put the money down to
right,
retain counsel and fight.
correct.
And then that's the thing, like, so let's say if somebody from the Queensbrook subdivision came straight to the city or before the commission and proposed a 2-story home or an addition, we're obligated to approve it if it complies with the city's dimensional standards. Regardless of what the regardless of what the subdivision indentures have
It's
in
definitely
place.
a lawsuit. Lawsuit is the way that they would enforce their indentures. So you may be buying yourself, you may get city approval, but you may be buying yourself a lawsuit.
Yep.
Correct, but
And under HOA law, I only know this because I was in charge of a humongous HOA, is that other people in the HOA can sue the HOA for not enforcing their own indentures. So it's fraught with problems, and it's an expensive way to deal with it, which is partly why I think it's nice that the city does at least make an effort to get the HOA's, input, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's always that fine line.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, well, I think this is a great start. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where it goes. I'm doing my own homework kind of on the side, but I think it's interesting. I'm glad we're going through this.
All right.
Carlos, can you those facts? Can you send those to all of us?
Sure.
Those were great. I would like to spend a little more time looking at that.
Lovely at 2025 after all the apartments.
Yeah. Yeah. How current data can you get from this? Is this just census?
Correct. And I think they have now up to the 2024. So this was the most available data at the time that we were putting the plan together.
Yeah.
These have been, I mean, there's potential that we can find updates to these numbers here. Now, these are from our permits. I mean, these are current.
Right, right. Well, this is good information. I would love to see if we can get more updated about that. I'm sure that's kind of part of the goal of the housing stock and taking a look at it. So that's going to be very interesting.
All right.
Good, good. Thank you, Carlos. All right. If there's no other talk or discussion on that, then we'll move on to reports. Carlos?
Just actually, if we can get the meeting minutes, or you want to hold off on that?
The meeting minutes.
Yeah. And I don't think those online got the
Oh,
ability to
I'll-
look at those, so we'll defer those.
Okay, that sounds
I
great.
forgot about that.
It wasn't on the agenda.
Good point. I just had it. It was on the
Jack, we appreciate your hard work, though.
in there.
Thank you.
Is Jack still on, or did he leave?
Yes, I'm on. My camera has crashed, but I am on.
Oh,
The
Yes,
game. He
thank
has
you.
to be on.
all right, good, good, good. So,
All right,
Carlos,
just a couple of things. Starting on the east side, work continues at the Brass Tap and the Paris Baguette. They're doing their interior work. The owners will be guests at Coffee at the Mare in January. Talk about their story and there's a reason why they selected uh, Olivet and that locations
Good.
in there. So encourage you, if you have the opportunity to attend, that's great. We're still waiting for the developer to confirm if they are going to pursue restaurants. I think that, I mean, it's probably 98% that they are, but they have not announced what those restaurants would be in there. And then they got the hotel approval. I do have those revisions, and after we conclude, I'll post it up real quickly. But they did break up that mass, and I forgot to bring that back to you.
Oh, okay.
In there, we did put it in the. I think the updated one is in the newsletter. And there across the street, we anticipate the Irvington Place apartments to be ready by March 2026. They're going to start setting up the model units and be opening to the public probably like around February. If you get a chance, it's a nice looking site. They put up the buffer screen wall, the landscaping. They've taken a lot of the construction fencing down, and it should be a really nice streetscape along Alice. Public Works has done work on the two opposite ends, providing a connection to Hilltop with access to the east side of Hilltop, and that was one of the main goals. So now all once the apartments get completed, we'll have that whole neighborhood interconnected with the industrial park and the Greenway. Greenway is working on the next phase, which is the trail from CVS all the way up to Dillman Road on the north end. Things are progressing. There was one property that they were trying to get final purchases on, and it looks like that's all coming into place now. So hopefully that will pick up. As you head westward, the council did approve the special permit for the restaurant that Easy Storage. However, there's been a communication issue with the restaurant operator. It's the more of a like being able to communicate with each other and all that. So we're still hoping and trying to press them to move on in their permitting and all that as in there. And I think that kind of concludes. If there's any questions on any of the other sites, I think Turkey Trot had over 2,000 participants and broke a record in there. And then the last thing I'll note is, is commission members and all that, oh, they took it off. It is, open for the council seats. There are 2 council seats, that will be up for this year, in there, and I think you have till December 16th to apply. Excuse me. And then, January 1st, I can't have a meeting on a holiday, so that one will be canceled. I don't see a need to do a rescheduling, but if the commission is concerned, please let me know. Our next meeting will be on the 18th. And we do have 1 new home and I believe a pool as part of the agenda.
Good.
That's all I have.
Okay. Brian?
Carlos stole most of my good stuff.
Sorry, sir.
Nah, it's okay. The turkey trot was $32,500. That was very exciting. It's
Nice.
cold. And then yeah, the city council seats open at this point, but those are kind of the main things.
Good. All right. Any other discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 8:45. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.